Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Yo ubhante viditvana majjhe manta na nippati. Tambrumi mahapurisoti sodhasibbani maccagati. Dear Dhamma friends, for this Canberra distant retreat, we have taken Majjhe Sutta as the retreat theme or retreat Sutta theme, and it is actually available in Anguttara Nikaya, where numerically discourses were aligned, categorized, and in this case, Majjhe Sutta is available in the sixth type or sixth category, where six facts are being explained. Now the original story actually takes to a long back, where Buddha had a kind of a discussion with certain Brahmin youths. There is one very famous Brahmin called Bavari, and so this Bavari get to know that Buddha has arisen in the world, but he himself, being very old, can't come and meet the Buddha. So he asks his fellows, his students, to see the Buddha. And he says that if he is the real Buddha, if you simply think about anything, he can read your mind. And if you think any particular problem, question, then he is able to answer that verbally. Then you can understand he is the real Buddha. So like that, this Bavari, giving Buddha's explaining Buddha's qualities and his skills, and ask his fellow students to go and meet the Buddha. One of such student is called Tissa Metteya, and he come and ask certain questions from the Buddha. So there Buddha is giving one answer, telling this particular verse very much like kind of a riddle. Yo ubhante viditvana majjhe manta na lippati. So if one knows the if one knows the two ends, and again if one knows the middle, and on top of that, if one does not stick to the middle, to him I call a great person, a great man, who has basically able to transcend the seamstress. Now the verse has certain similes given, two ends, directly not mentioned in the verse, and again the middle also not mentioned in the verse, and seamstress is also not properly mentioned who is the seamstress. Now related to this, probably Buddha has explained everything in detail to Tissa Metteya, but that information hasn't come. Now there's a kind of a conversation, kind of a meeting, conference kind of thing happening among some elder monks. After the end of Pindapata, they get together in a circular pavilion, and now they are having a kind of conference. Now different monks are giving different explanations about this verse. So one monk is telling one end is past, the other end is future, middle is the present, and seamstress is the craving. So this is not difficult to understand in a way. So constantly our mind being distracted towards the past and the future. So every time we are jumping from this to that, from past to the future, from future to the past, again to the past, again to the future, again to the past. So likewise constantly, like a weaving machine, like a sewing machine. So you can say constantly kind of a stitching happens, sewing happens between past and future. If we consider those two are like two clothes, so they are constantly being stitched, sewed together just because of this craving. So craving is the machine, sewing machine in a way. Craving is the seamstress. Now this is one explanation this one Venerable Thero is giving. And if in order to transcend craving, so he says that one has to properly understand past and future. He has to let go of past and future. And again, not only that, once he establishes in the present moment, he has to properly understand even the present moment. So He has to penetrate it, he has to let go of that, and not even attach to the present moment. Whatever the phenomena available in the present moment, arising in the present moment, he may be aware but not attached to it, not stick to it. So his mind is free. So if one is able to maintain that kind of a free mind, not attached to the past nor to the future, again aware of the present but not attached to it, not stick to the present even. So such person, Buddha says, is a great person. Then there's another explanation given by another monk. So that is what we discussed on yesterday. He says, pleasant feeling is one end, painful feeling is on the other end, the neutral feeling is the middle. So that is also we can understand. Constantly we are searching for pleasure, searching for happiness. We all like pleasant feelings. We all like some pleasurable feelings. So when one kind of pleasurable feeling is over, we want to have another pleasurable feeling, pleasant feeling. Whenever we feel any kind of a pain, we immediately want to get rid of that and want to have some pleasure. So constantly we are being driven by this pleasure. We are going after pleasures. We are going after happiness. Always searching for happiness because of the craving. So Buddha say craving is like a companion we always have, and we are like slaves to craving. Tanha dutiyo puriso digamadhana sansara. So if we consider the whole sansara, so tanha, craving, is our companion, is our partner. So we are keeping craving as our partner. So constantly we are listening to him or listening to her. When craving says, okay, you need to do this, so we are blindly obeying it and doing it. And after that, again craving says, do another thing. Then again we do another thing. Again craving says, do this, and we obeying, and like a slave, we do another thing. So likewise, we being like a victim, a slave to craving, and we constantly keep going on in this samsara. Now, here also, we are going after pleasurable feelings, and whenever we encounter any painful feeling, we want to get rid of it and immediately want to have some pleasure. So constantly pleasure and pain are being switched on and off. Constantly we are trying to have as much as possible pleasures. But typically what we mostly have is the sort of the neutral feelings, and we are basically ignorant about that. Because constantly the craving basically hides that neutral feeling, and we feel bored about neutral feeling. So we always want to have some excitement, have some pleasure. As a result, we completely ignorant about the neutral feeling. Now, who is hiding this middle? That is the craving. And craving has a strong relationship with ignorance. When we are ignorant, craving has the capacity to bind us also. And as a result, now we are jumping from pleasure to pain, pain to pleasure. So likewise, we are like a sewing machine. We are constantly being driven by craving, constantly being stitched by the craving. Now that is the second answer, another explanation given by another Thero. Now we can go to another answer, another explanation given by another Thero. And he says, internal sense bases are one end, external sense bases are the other end. Middle is the consciousness. Now this is in a way little deep answer, and let's try to understand that. What are the internal sense bases? So this is also not difficult to understand. We all as human beings, we have eyes, we have ears, we have nose, we have tongue, we have a body, and we have a mind. So these are called internal bases. Ajjattika ayatana. These are the internal sense bases. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and the mind. So there are some corresponding external sense bases as well. So for eye, forms. For ear, sounds. For nose, smells. For the tongue, tastes. For the body, tactile sensations. And for the mind, mental objects. Now we can see there are internal sense bases as well as the external sense bases. Now they are like sensors. The internal sense bases are like sensors using which we are interacting with the outside world. And if we consider the mind, that is also can consider as a sense base. And not only the outside world, but even the inside world, we are dealing with the mind. So likewise, these are like apparatus, like sensors. We are communicating or we are experiencing the whole world using these senses. So how about the accuracy of these senses? So we can't assure that they are giving us exact or accurate results. So you know that if we consider any apparatus, it has some error. It may have some sort of defects. And are we sure that our senses are giving us the exact, accurate, precise results? So this is something that we can even look at in a scientific point of view. Are our eyes capable of seeing 100%? Are we getting the full picture, complete picture? Or are we only seeing part of it? Say for example, now science saying, so we can only see several colors. So most of you have learned Vibgyor, while violet, indigo, like that, there's a series, and only those colors our eyes are sensitive. Everything else we are not sensitive, we can't see. But there are certain other animals, they still can see those colors which the human can't see. So therefore we can say these eyes as a internal sense base, when it is operating like a sensor, it has very limited capacity. It has a very narrow capacity, and it can't comprehend the complete picture or the full picture. It is only very partial information it is giving us. And of course, if one is color blind, definitely he can't see the full picture. And even the colors we perceive are fairly imposed or has been influenced by the brain. So all these recognitions are error prone because there's a significant brain activity going on. And even though some sort of a inverted image is given by the eye, so it is been corrected and make it proper and beautiful, and we connect so much of other internal defilements to it, and then it appears very beautiful, very attractive. So likewise, if we consider even this eye, so it is in a way cheating us. When we see something, it is a kind of a image appear in the retina, and that is being recognized by the brain activity, and then we give a name, a sign, various labels, and we even give some values to it. And we attach some past labels to it, past memories to it, and even some anticipated wishes to it, results to it. So likewise, we completely color this experience, and with such colored mind, we perceive this form, we perceive this sight. So we can see, even though we have the capacity to see something, it is not the pure data that we are getting. It may be some partial data we are getting, not the complete picture. And once even that is being taken inside, that is further constructed, further fabricated, further changed, and that changed picture we interpret and say, this is this, this is that. I saw this, I saw that, I saw him, I saw her. So likewise, all this I operating in a many different way, so that it actually add a lot of things we already have perceived. in a way, we all have sort of preconceived ideas. So we are putting all these onto the picture, and now we have a very complicated answer, and which may be far from what we really have seen. So we saw something, but that is being interpreted, that is being further fabricated, changed, and that is what we ultimately perceive. So therefore we can understand, even though eye has the capacity to see, it still has a lot of limitations, and still it has a lot of defects. Similarly, if we hear some sound, it is not the complete sound spectrum that we can hear. There are certain other sounds certain animals can hear, but humans can't. So therefore we can understand, even the sounds, we are not capable of listening to everything. Only partial sounds or data that we are receiving. So even that further coming inside the ear, and it also interpreted by the brain and recognized by the brain, and then we are putting so many names. We have kind of pre-collected information, kind of a data bank. Now you are putting so much of detail onto it, your likes and dislike onto it, you are attaching those things also, and now you interpret, okay, this is this sound, this is that sound, it is beautiful, this is kind of a noise, this is bad, this is wrong. So likewise we give a lot of interpretations to this sound what we have heard. Similarly, if we consider nose, we can smell various things, the same picture we are interpreting based on the kind of a partial information and based on our likes and dislikes. Our nose doesn't have the complete capacity to see the full picture. There are, as you know, there are many animals who can sense many information, very subtle odors, which the human can't actually. Similarly, if we consider tongue, so we can only feel part of it, and even if we become sick, suppose you got fever, then most of the time this sensitivity has reduced, and now you can't even distinguish various tastes. So all these are fairly vulnerable and subject to change. So even the tongue doesn't give the full picture. So you can't say that you know every taste. You have tasted everything. And as we grow older, so most of the time these certain senses, these nerves are sort of become insensitive. As a result, we are not getting the complete picture. Similarly, if we consider the body, skin, there are a lot of pressure and temperature sensors, so from which actually we are gaining this connecting with the outside, and there we feel either pressure, either sort of hardness, softness, and all this. Now there are also only partially we are actually experiencing. Suppose we are in a deep sleep, then you can't actually perceive what is going on. So likewise, if we consider these sensors, they are not really perfect. They actually give us some partial results, partial data, not complete data. And unfortunately, even that we distort, even that we put so much of our information, our likes and dislikes, our biases on top of that, and that is what we actually perceive, that is what actually we consume, that is what actually we take as real. So if we deeply analyze, then we can say it is not the real picture that we are really seeing. So Buddha gives a very beautiful simile here. Buddha says it is like a deer seeing a mirage. So when a deer, suppose it is very thirsty in a kind of a desert area, and it is now utterly thirsty, and now he is going after some water, looking or searching some water, and he sees some sort of a mirage appearing in a distant, since he hasn't seen a mirage before, he interprets it as water. We as humans know that because of the dry heat, dry air, this kind of a phenomenon happen in the desert. But the deer doesn't know. So he thinks this is water and it is now running after the mirage. But more it runs, more the mirage also going beyond, far and far. Now ultimately the deer becomes so frustrated, so tired, and even it can die. Because it has gone after a mirage, not a real thing, not a real water. Now similarly, our senses, are we sure that they are giving the real picture? So when we see a girl, when we see a boy, is it a real girl? Is it a real boy? So all these pictures, all these sights, all these sounds fairly has a lot of impact, influence given by our own interpretations, given by our own kinds of likes and dislikes, and again our habitual tendencies. So we are actually perceiving a kind of distorted information. We are dealing with the distorted information, so that we are not really seeing the correct picture, actual picture. Now Buddha say, Chakkunja paticca rupecha uppajjati chakku viññāna. Now if we come to the very fundamentals, Buddha say how this understanding happens, how this knowing happens. Buddha says when I and the form come together, then it causes or it produces chakku viññāna, that is the knowing of the form. I consciousness. Now, I consciousness is in a way responsible to distinguish I and form. So whenever forms are available, whenever any kind of colors are available, pictures are available, now if our eyes are also healthy and now eyes are open and now you are sort of focused to that direction, now it is in the eyesight, line of sight, and now eye consciousness is capable of arising because eye and the form come together. Eye and the form are in proper line, aligned, and they are in the line of sight, and now eye consciousness arises. Now this eye consciousness therefore is dependently arisen. If there is no eye, if there is no form, and actually we can even add the light. If there is no light, if it is dark, then there is no possibility of arising eye consciousness. So the eye consciousness to arise, eye and the form and the light and even your mind has to be directed towards that form. Then only we say, okay, eye consciousness arise. Now eye consciousness is actually the recognition of this form. So you can distinctly know there is a form just because of the arising of this eye consciousness. But unfortunately what happens here is the craving also is in the picture. Now it does not allow us to see this operation, allow us to see these intricacies, allow us to understand these internal tactics. Rather, we immediately grasp the form. The form we interpret as very beautiful, very fantastic, pretty. So immediately craving is in operation. We immediately go and grasp it. Now, eye and form therefore being stitched or stick by craving. So craving is the seamstress. Similarly, we can say when you are hearing a sound, suppose it is a beautiful sound, it's a beautiful song, beautiful music. Now, if you come to the very internals, very basic fundamentals, actually kind of a sound wave come and hit the eardrum. As a result, some sort of vibration happen that being interpreted, and now brain understand this is this sound. Now that is how ear is operating. Some of you maybe as doctors or as other whoever can understand this very well. You know the operation or the fundamentals how a ear operates. But we don't think about that. We immediately consider, so this sound is very beautiful. I want to listen to this music. I want to record it. I want to listen it again and again. Now you completely forget the ear operation, the internal functionality of the ear. You immediately go and jump and want to have that music, want to listen to that song. Because we are being blinded by this craving. So therefore we can understand constantly ear and the sound being stitched together because of the craving. So we completely forget the functionality. Functionality is very much like the consciousness, ear consciousness in this case. So ear consciousness is the responsible person or factor which is able to distinguish between ear and the sound. So whenever we understand there is ear, there is sound, this sound is beautiful and etc. So the main functionality is the ear consciousness. But since craving is present and since craving is wrapping the whole picture, then we forget that ear consciousness, we can't perceive that, understand that, but we immediately go and grasp the song, the sound, the music. So that is what typically happens. Similarly, if we consider nose, so there are various smells, maybe very, say, beautiful, good, and we don't consider all these nose related senses, and we go and grasp it, we go and like it, we go and desire it because of craving. Similarly, tongue, similarly body, and beautifully it is same thing happens to the mind as well. Whenever any kind of mental object happens, come to the mind, that is also generating some sort of a happiness. If it is generating some sort of a happiness, we immediately go and grasp it. We don't understand the operation of the mind, operations of the mind consciousness, mano viññāna. We forget that functionality, we can't see it, it is being hidden because of the craving. But we think this mental construct or this whatever the thought arisen is real. It is something significant, it is something important, it is something very valuable. It's a fantastic plan, it's a brilliant idea. So likewise we give a lot of names, a lot of values, and immediately we go and jump and grasp it, hold it, crave for that. Now we can say, so this internal sense bases are one end, external sense bases are the other end. So the middle is the consciousness. So how to understand the operation of the consciousness? So that actually we have to develop mindfulness. Basically, you have to understand whenever you are being driven by various sights, you really like seeing movies, you really like listening to music, you really like to have delicious food, some good clothes, etc. So constantly we are driven by all these senses, all these five senses particularly, and we go one after the other. So if you are somewhat bored about watching a movie, probably now you can go and put your favorite CD and now you can listen to some music. If you feel now again you are bored, you want to have some cookie, and now you can open your fridge and have something. And if you feel it is enough and you want to again watch a movie, a comedy, now again you go and watch. So likewise, we always jump from one sense to other sense, eye to ear, ear to nose, nose to tongue, again tongue to ear, again to eye. So likewise, we are constantly trying to gratify these senses. Now, if we are able to restrain these senses, so that is one approach that we have to take care of. Now, that is why in a retreat environment, we are trying to restrain our senses. We are now not going to talk too much. We are now not going to read various newspapers and all these distracted information. We are not going to watch any movies. We are not going to listen to music. And we do practice some precepts, we observe precepts, and we are trying to restrain our faculties, restrain our senses. In that way, our mind is somewhat calmed down because we are not bombarded by various information. Whenever we open our eyes, a lot of sights come and hit or actually torture the mind. Whenever we hear many things, various sounds come and torture the mind. Whenever we smell many, say, incense, various smells, that also kind of torturing the mind. And when we are tasting various things, same story. Even when we are sensing tactile sensations, actually none of them stay at the sensor level, but who is going to consume them is the mind. Actually, there is a beautiful story happened during the Buddha's time. One Brahmin teacher called Unnaba Brahmana. So he come and ask a question from the Buddha. He says, eye can only see sights, ear can only hear sounds, nose can only sense various odors, and tongue can only sense various tastes, and body can only sense various tactile sensations. And they have their corresponding subject. They don't interfere. Your eye can't listen to sounds. Your ear can't see sights. Your tongue can't listen to sounds. So likewise, they have their only private category onto which they correspond, onto which they respond. But this person asks, who is ultimately consume them? Because none of these information going to last or going to stay at these senses. When your eyes are closed, all that previous sights are completely gone. Your eye can't see anything right now. Similarly, suppose you have listened to something and after a while it is gone. You can't listen anything right now. Suppose you are enjoying some delicious food. After some time you feel full and you drink some water and now the taste has gone. Similarly, the tactile sensations. So you can say only temporary satisfaction is there at the sensor level. Then who is going to consume all this information? Who is the receiver, ultimate receiver? So then Buddha says it is the mind. Mind is the one ultimately consuming them and to some extent storing them. So mind is the responsible character. So in that sense, we can understand more we satisfy these senses, more we try to gratify these senses, in a way more we pollute our mind, more we clutter our mind. So more and more information go and hit the mind, some part of them store there, and unfortunately most vulnerable, most polluted information are now staying as kind of a what you call as a surface or as a kind of a ingredient of the mind. Now it has become segmentation and store in the mind. Now whenever opportunity is there, so those information come into the top as well. Those latent tendencies, those habitual information now again come into the top of the mind and now they take over the mind. So basically we can say more we feed more and more information, more and more sights, sounds, taste, smells, tactile sensations. So more and more mind become disturbed, mind become polluted and disrupted. Now, what is the solution to this? And that is what the question asked by the Unnaba Brahmana next. So for this kind of a polluted, corrupted mind, who is the savior? Who is the protector? What is the answer? Then very beautifully Buddha says, mindfulness is the answer. So if you want to purify the mind, so you have to apply mindfulness. So this is where mindfulness practice is quite crucial, where more you become mindful, your mind become slowly clearer and clearer. Mind become calmer and calmer. And that polluted state becomes some pure and pure. Now it is again become quite clear, again become fairly pure. So you got to apply mindfulness, and more we practice mindfulness, you may also already experience that your mind clarity is improving. Previously, constantly your mind being bombarded by various signs, perceptions, thoughts, but now it is fairly calm, fairly tranquil. As a result, the frequency of thoughts become less. Suppose previously you had 100 thoughts per minute. Now say 20 thoughts per minute. So you can say somewhat space is available in the mind. Now less noise in the mind. Now mind has some calmness, some clarity. So you can see the picture properly. You can take a correct decision because mind is fairly calm. Mind is not disturbed. Mind is not colored because of the mindfulness practice. Now, therefore, as we develop mindfulness, you even can understand how I operates, how I arise, and how I disappear. Now, whenever you have opened your eyes, suppose there is a sight, and at that moment I arise. If you consider the functionality of the eye, it is very momentarily. Suppose there is a sound, even though your ears are healthy, if there is no sound, nothing to listen, nothing to hear. When there is a sound, immediately ear arise, and as the sound pass away, ear also pass away. If you consider the functionality, it is also very momentary. Similarly, the nose, when there is a smell and you can feel it, and immediately that feeling has gone. When there are taste, you can understand the tongue arise, that functionality arise, and after a while it has gone. When there are tactile sensations, you can immediately feel it, sense it, and it has gone. Say if you are doing walking meditation, as you keep your foot on the ground, suppose you feel something. So after a while it has gone, it has disappeared. Similarly, if you consider thoughts, assume that you had a clear mind, there was nothing there. But now there's a arising of a thought, and you can recognize it. If you are not feeding it, it starts to fade away and ultimately disappear. And again your mind becomes clear. So likewise you can understand how these senses arise and pass away, and even how these external sense bases, sights, sounds, smells, taste, tactile sensations and mental objects, how they are also arising and passing away. So this is in a way the insight practice, another type of insight practice. Sometimes we call as ayatana bhavana. So you are keeping your attention onto the senses rather than allowing craving to take you on a ride. You are very vigilant, very mindful, and you understand the operation of the senses. You understand the operation of the sense bases. In order to do that, you have to be utterly mindful. You have to be extremely mindful, and you are very ready in order to understand what is really happening at our eyes, at our ears, at our nose, at our tongue, at our body, and again in our mind. So in that way, you may understand all these sense bases. They are not permanent. They also have the transient nature. They also arise and pass away. All these external sense bases, they are not permanent. They all are arising and passing away. They are completely impermanent. So if one is able to understand this, then you are not actually allowing craving to stitch these two ends. Now you can be free from internal sense base, and again you can be free from external sense base. And you are not grasping any of these. You are not holding. You are not attaching. Rather, you can have a free mind. You know there is kind of a form, but you are not attached to it. You are not promoting that I consciousness. You are not holding that information. You allow the mind to be free. So now I consciousness is not being fed. So the consciousness become weaker and weaker. So this is how we have to slowly allow some sort of what we call unestablished consciousness to arise, where it is kind of a awareness, pure awareness is available. It is not conditioned. Now these are in a way some deep aspects of the Dhamma. Basically, that leads us to have a kind of a free mind, unassociated mind. That is where Buddha is telling, Anissitocha viharati nacha kinchi loke upaditi. So where you have kind of a freedom. The mind has some sort of a freedom, not attached to anything in the world. So there one can say, you are free from one end, that is the internal sense basis, and you are free from the other end, that is the external sense basis, and you know the operation of the consciousness, various types of consciousness, and that also you are not promoting, that also you are not holding, grasping, and you are free from that. You are not constructing on top of that. You are not established on that. You are not holding that. So that person, such person, Buddha says is a great person, a great man. Now, if we consider the operation of the consciousness, it is further refined, and another explanation is given in this Majjhe Sutta. Now we have discussed one explanation, internal sense basis as one end, external sense basis as the other end, middle as the I consciousness, and there's a somewhat refined answer given as the next explanation. So let's consider that explanation as well. Now another monk come and tell, he says, Nama, that is the mental aspect, we can say, is one end. Rupa, material aspect, is the other end. And the middle is the consciousness. Now this is in a way some refinement to that previous answer. So if you consider the internal sense basis and the external sense basis, middle is the consciousness. So kind of a refinement has happened in this second, the other answer, where another monk is telling, Nama, that is the name, is the one end, Rupa, form, is the other end, consciousness is the middle. Now this is something that we have to carefully understand. Now this is fairly mental in a way. Now if you consider how our mind works, so this is very subtle information or very subtle insight that one can understand only when one can understand idappaccheta. That is the paticcasamuppada, dependent arising, dependent origination. So don't worry about this information too much, thinking that these are too high, too difficult, I don't know these facts and all this. As we move forward in the mindfulness practice, satipatthana practice, slowly, when you are reaching chitta-anupassana and dhamma-anupassana, most of these links become somewhat clear to you. At the Kayanupassana level, at the Vedananupassana level, more gross links are going to be clear, somewhat like Passapaccha Vedana. Last time actually we discussed that, how contact causes feeling. Now, more we continue our practice, certain other links also going to be visible or also going to be evident. Say for example, avijja pacca sankhara, sankhara pacca vijnanam, vijnana pacca nama rupam. So this vijnana pacca nama rupam is one of the key feature in this answer. This vijnana, consciousness, has kind of a reflective capacity. So whenever kind of a sign appears in front, the vijnana has the capacity to reflect it and the name recognize it, and it forgets the function of this vijnana, consciousness. And immediately because of the craving, we consider this sign as a real thing. We don't know it is a sign, merely a sign, rather we consider it as real. Like we discussed earlier, what happened to a deer consider mirage as water. Similarly, here, whenever a sign happens in the mind, kind of a mental construct, kind of a mental image, so we forget it as a mental image, rather we consider it is as something real. Actually, to give you some practical example here, suppose you are practicing Anapanasati. Now you are able to observe series of breaths. Inhale, exhale. And you are very mindful about it. And now you are fairly successful in it. Now you can understand in-breath, you can understand out-breath. And you may be able to establish mindfulness for 20 breaths. And you are now further improving. Now you can be mindful about 50 breaths. Likewise, suppose you are improving your mindfulness. Now, after some time, you can now understand, okay, in-breath is longer, in-breath is shorter, this breath is longer, that breath is longer, shorter, and this breath happens from this nostril, the another breath happens at another nostril. Sometimes it happens on both nostrils, and this is warm, this is cold. So likewise, now you are even having refined mindfulness. Now, and again you probably can understand this is the beginning of the breath, this is the middle of the in-breath, this is the end of the in-breath. And you can even understand there's a very subtle gap. Now there's the beginning of out-breath, this is the middle of the out-breath, this is the end of the out-breath. And then again there's a gap. After a gap, okay, there is a beginning of next in-breath. So likewise, you are closely examining the breath cycle. As a result, suppose your breath calms down. Pasambhayam kaya sankharang asasisamiti sikkati. Now your breath calms down. Now there's a beautiful thing can happen. I can't say that to everyone this happens. But there's a possibility that once everything calms down, your breath has calmed down, you feel like floating, you can't now perceive the body, everything appear like blurred, very soft, gentle. But there's a possibility kind of an image arise in the mind. Suppose there is a woman's image. I am giving an example. Kind of a woman's image appear in the mind. Now immediately this image looks like your suppose passed away grandmama. Now you immediately grasp, you immediately say, oh, this is my grandmom. How come I see this grandmom today? Why she is appearing in my mind? Is she in a state that requires some kind of a help? Do I need to pass marriage to her? Or is she in a trouble? Now she has passed away some long time ago. Why she is appearing right now? What has happened really to grandmama? Is she in a big trouble? How can I help grandma? Now various thoughts are happening in our mind,
And we attribute this whole story to grandmom, and now this grandmom appear very real. But what is really has happened? Now this is simply a mental construct, simply a mental image. But unfortunately we attribute it to someone, to some individual, because of our ignorance and craving. We couldn't recognize it as a mental image, as a mental construct. So this is simply a sign, but we couldn't stop there. And we actually, unfortunately, has become that foolish deer who has seen mirage and taken it as water. Similarly, this can happen to us while meditating, especially when your breath calms down, when your body disappears. Then various kinds of images might be available. It may happen as various images. It might even happen as various sounds. It might even happen as various smells. But if we consider them as real, then we get caught to them. So why we get caught? Because the craving actually hides the real picture, actually hides the complete operation. Rather, craving wraps name and form together. So the knowing part and the form, that is the image part or the sign part, being immediately wrapped together, stitched together because of craving. And we don't know the operation of the consciousness, vijnana. We actually forgotten that the vijnana, consciousness, has a capacity to reflect. So we forgot that totally. We immediately thought, oh, this is my grandma. Because of craving, because of our ignorance, immediately we jump and grasp it, and we forgot it is a mental construct. We forgot it's a mental image. There's a very beautiful simile given by Most Venerable Katukurunde Jnanananda Mahathero. He says there's a Greek story about Narcissus. This is a kind of a Greek mythology where kind of a Greek god called Narcissus. He's a very beautiful young man. And we can't say a man, we can say a young god. And he has never seen his face. And one day he go closer to a water, kind of a reservoir, say. And water is very clear and very still. And he simply sort of look at it. Now inside water he saw an angel, very beautiful angel. Now once he saw this angel, he fallen in love because she is very beautiful, very attractive. And he has never seen such a beautiful angel. And now he has fallen in love, and without her he can't live. Now he want to have her. He want to hug her. He want to own her. But when he is putting his hands to hug her, she disappears. Again now he got frustrated and he can't understand what has happened. Now he stepped back and again rest some time. After a while again he saw whether it is possible to see her. Again angel was there in the water. Again now this Narcissus want to have this angel. He is really very beautiful, very pretty. So Narcissus is really fallen in love with her. Now he is going to hug her. But unfortunately, when water sort of change, swirl, then angel disappeared. Again this Narcissus got frustrated because he can't be with his fiancée. Now he does it more and again and again. Ultimately he jumped to water and he died because of true love. Now, in this story, what has happened is this Narcissus, this young god, has never seen his face. Since he himself is a beautiful person, actually he's seen his own face. But he thought it is an angel. He actually forgotten the capacity of the water to reflect. Suppose there were no mirrors, fortunately, at that time. Only way of looking at it is because of this water. But unfortunately, this guy was quite, in a way, little foolish. He don't know that water has the capacity to reflect. He thought there is a hidden angel in the water, and he has fallen in love. Now he has died. Now here, our vijnana is like that water. Vijnana, consciousness, has that capacity to reflect. So whenever a sign happens, mental image happens, it immediately reflects and we recognize it, and this nama is responsible for this recognition. So this nama actually further can be elaborated as 5 factors. Feeling is one factor. So assume for this Narcissus, when he saw that, so kind of a happy feeling arises. And then sanya, the perception, because this is an angel. This is in a way wrong sanya, wrong perception. And then chetana, volition. I want to have her, I want to hug her, I want to own her. So that is the chetana, volition. And everything happens in the mind, so it is the chakku sampassa. If we consider the contact, it is basically the, now if we assume that Narcissus has closed his eyes, now even the angel can be seen in his mind. Now similarly, if we completely take this to the mind, so even if you have some sort of an idea or kind of a memory about a person, suppose your loved one, then even if you close your eyes, you can see her, you can see him, because you love him, love her, and the mental image appear like very real, and it is giving you pleasurable feeling, and you immediately consider she is so and so. That is the wrong perception. And again, you want to have her, you want to be with her, you want to be with him. So that is the chetana, the volition. You want to marry him or you want to marry her. That is the volition. And mentally, everything happens. That is the mental contact, mind contact, chakku mano sampassa. And if we consider the manasikara, it is complete ayoniso manasikara. You don't know the operation of the mind. You don't know the operation of the mind consciousness, its capacity to reflect. And we think only at the surface level. You can't go deep. You can't go to the root. You can't understand the operation. So we are in the ayoniso manasikara, unwise attention. Now these 5 factors, vedana, sanya, chetana, passa, manasikara. So that are the more fundamental characteristics of this nama, of this mental recognition. Now when these are happening in a very rapid succession, so you don't have the capacity to understand these very subtle details, these intricacies, so that it is quite easy to seamstress to inaction. So seamstress constantly wrap nama and rupa, name and form, and you altogether forget the function of the consciousness, the function of reflectivity or reflection of the consciousness. And since this mental image is very beautiful, very attractive, we being immediately grasping that, we being immediately diverted to that, driven to that, forgetting the operation of the consciousness. Now, if one has to understand all these very subtle information, as I said, you have to go deeper and deeper in the inside meditation. There you can understand there's a kind of interrelationship between consciousness and name and form. Vijnana pacca nama rupam, nama rupa pacca vijnana. So these are in a way very profound information that Buddha has revealed. In certain suttas, Buddha talk about these kind of very profound information, that the mind, say the consciousness, has the capacity to reflect name and form. And name and form in turn helps to manifest the consciousness. Without name and form, that manifested consciousness does not happen. So the manifested consciousness to happen, name and form is a must. Therefore, name and form and consciousness are interrelated. Vijnana pacca nama rupam, nama rupa pacca vijnana. So likewise, these are some subtle aspects of this explanation given by the other monk. And in this solution, name, nama, is one end, rupa, that is the signs, mental constructs, mental images, are the other end. The middle is the vijnana, consciousness. So if one is able to understand this whole operation, not attaching to any name and form, and if he is able to maintain unestablished kind of mindfulness, unestablished kind of consciousness, then we can say he is completely free. His mind is not associating with anything. His mind is not holding to anything, grasping anything. He is completely free. So for such person, Buddha say, is a great person, a great man. So this is another very profound answer given by another venerable. And actually we have discussed two answers, two explanations. And with that, I like to conclude today's Dhamma sermon. And thank you very much for listening.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much, Bhante. I think we are so fortunate that